Preclinicals will humble you, but not because they're impossible, but because nobody tells you what really matters. Let me tell you the real truth about preclinical medicine and how to survive it. Before the sleepless nights, before the panic, before the moments where you find yourself in an exam and you're like, I just studied this but can't remember what. In this video, we're going to tell you the truth about preclinical medicine. This is Luca, and on this channel we keep it real about med school, medicine, and everything under the field of healthcare. And if you're a preclinical student, this is a video that I'd wish someone would have made for me before. Preclinicals don't test your intelligence, they test your consistency. Everyone that gets into medical school is smart already. That's basically the default setting. But one thing that's going to separate those that will make it through medicine and those that might have it challenging is consistency. Because at the end of the day, the program that you're doing isn't about the level of intelligence you have per se, but basically how consistent you are in doing things. How consistent are you going to be in your study plans, in the way you are going to take your academics? At the end of the day, you find that we don't have a lot of courses that involve you to calculate. The truth is, most of everything that you do is text, is literature. You're going to have to study and memorize large chunks of literature. And how are you going to get that if you're not consistent? It's a common thing that most medical students will find themselves having to study large chunks of information towards exam season because they might have procrastinated. But imagine if you just used to put in even 3 or 2 hours every day and you remained consistent like that for the rest of the academic year. You wouldn't find medicine that much of a struggle. But then some people might say, look, we know people who don't study, people who lazy around, but then they'll come and study before a paper and still pass. Yes, that does happen, but it's not an occasional thing. You have to study smart, which is at this point something that might even be cringe to say. But the truth is, which leads us into our second point, high yield is key. Don't study everything. There's too much to study. There's so much for you to grasp. There's so much in medicine that trying to study everything or thinking that you can go through everything is a lie. And if you're trying to survive this journey, which is medical school, you have to study what is going to come in the paper. You're going to have to study what is high yield. So one advice that I give someone who's starting the academic year, whether it might be second, third, or fourth year, depending on the medical institution you're in, try to go through past papers. Like in the beginning, not before, not after you've read the literature. Just even if it's like your first day of going through a course, get the past paper, go through it, see the high yield questions. Even if you don't understand anything, just go through the high yield questions. Because one thing that you're going to understand, one thing that you're going to pick up is the things that come along, the high yield principles. Because as you study, as you go through those papers, they'll be asking you questions, and then when you now start to study the literature that you've been given, you start picking out things that you've been seeing in past papers, and you dive deep into that as compared to other things that might not even be relevant to your studies. Because medicine is very particular. It's questions are asked depending on the region where you are. And if you are in the Southern African region, you find that more for example, in microbiology, you're going to find that there'll be high prevalence of diseases like malaria, diseases like HIV and AIDS. So yeah, you have to study depending on what is high yield and not trying to go through everything. Seniors don't tell you the full truth. Okay, don't get me wrong. If anything, out of all the careers, medicine is probably the one where seniors hold quite a high value. Because I'll give you an example of myself during a clinical rotation. Before I sutured for the first time in surgery, I had to get permission from my senior, because the doctor that we're working with had that philosophy whereby every senior that's there is about to become an intern and they need to have their skills perfected as much as possible. So before we could have opportunities, of course we would do things, but before we had opportunities to do major procedures like suturing or these other things, our seniors would have had to already had that prior knowledge. So if you have that beef with your senior, love it. Yeah, so yeah, seniors are important, but at least try to take the things they say with a grain of salt, because some seniors might tell you, no, just relax, it's like this, it's like that, and then ukapona. And then sometimes you might have seniors that might tell you to study, it's wild, and then you might end up stressing yourself and everything. The truth is, each and every person has their own experience. You're going to have to experience things for yourself for you to make your own interpretation of how your journey or how you're going to handle the rest of your medical journeys. People pretend to study. Trust me, no one is going to study for 8 hours straight. The people who are going to go into a library and you find them cramming and breaking nights, and the people who are going to really study. And yeah, they are studying, they're putting in the effort. But if you see someone studying for like 10 hours straight, then trust me, they've only seriously studied for 4 hours. Don't demoralize yourself or feel bad because maybe someone else might be looking like they're studying for so many hours and you're not studying for as much. Just like I said in the first point, when you've gone through the high yield things, you're going to make a plan. You're going to make a plan of which topics are asked a lot, and you're going to see how best I can cover these topics and in which time frame am I going to finish these topics. And then for you, that might be 3 hours a day. And then if you keep that consistent, which is the first point, you're going to end up finishing your objectives. And then of course you're going to have to do it in a way that it is comfortable for you, like I said in the third point. So yeah, don't fall into the trap of being deceived by other people that study 24/7. Finally, it gets easier as you understand the system. As you go through this journey, you're going to see new words, new questioning styles, new exam formats. But as you continue to see these, the truth is, the first test you're going to write, the first continuous assessment, it might not be so good. The first addition to your continuous assessment, that is not going to be good. It might be, but 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be good, and that's okay, that's normal, because as you continue with the journey, it gets better. 90% of the doctors that you're going to see today, out of the clinical students you're going to see today, most of them might have even had bad bad first test results or low CAs here and there. These things are normal, and it's a way for you to understand the system. There's a quote that I love which says, no regrets in life, just lessons learned. Because everything that you go through is for a purpose, it's for a reason. It's just up to you now. Are you going to apply what you've learned and use it for the way you're going to tackle things in future? Yeah, so just understand that no matter what setbacks come, it's normal. It's just, all you have to do is just make sure you come back stronger. I'm going to run you through just a little something or guidelines on how you can go about each course. Anatomy, don't read it, see it. During my preclinical time, as I was studying anatomy, I literally didn't have any notes going into the exam. What I do is, especially for gross anatomy, each time we'd go through a region of the body, I'd draw the diagrams and stick them on my wall. And then I would make tables for muscle origins, insertions, innervations, blood supply, venous drainages, as well as lesions. Then you'd find that I just have a table for each thing. So whether it would be, for example, let's say pectoralis major, you'd have that there. Quadratus lumborum, you'd have that there. Then I would have a table of all those muscles stuck on my wall. Then maybe I would draw the humerus, its ridges and everything like that, and I would stick that on my wall. Maybe I'd have the course and distribution of the sciatic nerve. So once exam time comes, especially in section B, because our section B part of our anatomy paper was more of structural questions, and it was comprehensive. So I would just image that picture in my head, and then I would start explaining the essay from that. I would be like, oh, it originates from this part and it passes under or posterior to this, inferior to that, and then I'll just explain what I'd see, and I would get good marks because of implementing that. Because when you try to write down so many things, you find that you would waste so much time, because you know what they say, a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. So for anatomy, try to visualize it. Of course, for embryological processes and histology to some extent, you'd have to have some of that literature. Don't get me wrong, you can write down notes, but for anatomy, the best way of passing is visualizing it. Using 3D models, there are applications that help with this. The 3D apps where you can visualize things, you can check YouTube videos that show things, but for anatomy, trust me on this one, visualize it. Microbiology. Micro is pattern recognition. So the way microbiology is, and a lot of these other preclinical courses, is you find that all you have to do is know the etiology, you know the pathophysiology, you know the etiology, you know the pathophysiology, you know the pathogenesis, you know and so on until the treatment, and you just know that order, and then you have that for each and every organism. And then, like the first or second tip I gave you, know what's high yield. So for microbiology, when you go through your micro past papers and see which organisms are asked about a lot, you just need to follow the same pattern recognition. Even if no matter what year, you of course the literature that you'll be given will go in depth here and there and that, but mostly what's going to be asked about is the way that's given. So for micro, you just need to know your patterns, and then you also need to know what's high yield basically for micro, because there's so many microbes. I feel like for parasitology there were like, because even for parasitology there were like I think 60 to 70 plus parasites, and then there were also ectoparasites on top of that. So like there's just so many organisms for you to understand, and you do need to read all of each and every one of them, but there are going to be those that you're going to focus deeply on. For example, plasmodium is like a must know, because it's plasmodium. Yeah. And then of course in virology, that these that you're going to have to know things like COVID, because it just recently was a pandemic. You're going to need to know hepatitis, HIV, and what have you. So for microbiology, it's about the high yield, and it's about following the same pattern. As you read extensively, you'll be able to answer the MCQs, but usually for the structural questions, which are even more marks, it's just the same pattern that you're going to have to know. Physiology. Understand why. Physiology is the closest thing to the high school biology that we're learning, because for high school biology it was more of mechanism based, it was functionality, it was why it's happening. So as you read physiology, I'd recommend that you don't write down as many notes, but write down points that try to make you remember what you learned. A lot of people, as they're studying, are going to try to summarize large pieces, when I feel like for physiology, what you do is first understand the process, understand the mechanism. And even the first part, when you understand the general physiology, the muscle contractility, the action potential, everything else is kind of like based from that, and it builds up upon that principle. So when you understand the first part, and you also that's understanding the mechanism, every other mechanism of action isn't going to be as difficult as it would be if you wouldn't understand that. So physiology, try to understand, and then as you make your summary notes or your summary points, don't make them too extensive. Just try to like make short points that will make you remember what you did before, and then supplement that with past paper questions for you to get the high yield things, and go through a lot of MCQs. MCQs is something that you shouldn't even be like stressing about. Just, if possible, every time you're studying a course, have a portion in your time where you're going to go through MCQs, so that as exams come, you won't even have to like go through MCQs, because you've been doing it from the beginning. Biochemistry, memorize smart, not hard. Biochemistry is relatively small compared to other medical courses, if I'm just being honest. If your institution makes you learn biochemistry in a way where you learn from the beginning things, like if it's carbohydrates, for example, you learn about what they are, the structural complexity of each carb, the groups and everything, then yeah, you can read that, understand that. But if you go through most of these papers, they won't even ask you about that. They'll go straight into the processes of how the energy actually comes out, you know, the glycolysis, the gluconeogenesis. Those are the things you need to know, the pathways, those arrows. Just memorize those structures, draw them, stick them on your wall, make mnemonics, ask AI to make mnemonics for you. Those are the things that you're going to be asked about. Of course, you need to read to know and understand, but go through the things that are going to come. But biochemistry is basically about memorizing in a smart way. So if you know the questions that they ask in biochemistry, you're going to know what to memorize and what to understand. So for biochemistry, it's mostly pathways, patterns, processes. the calculations would be because of the pattern, because of the processes. So you would study in that accord. Pathology, disease is mechanical. So for pathology, here's one thing that I won't even, like, I've just thought of it right now, like not even looking at the script that I made for this video. One thing about pathology is, if you just understand general pathology, you have passed pathology. You know, for me, when I was doing pathology, because I was doing general pathology in our first term, and I was like, I was a bit laid back because I passed second year and everything. And for us, it's like we're doing some of the preclinical courses in second year and the others in third year. So for me, when I went into pathology, I had that confidence of just passing anatomy, and I was a bit laid back, and I was like, I'll get serious in term two. When term two started and each condition was coming, because pathology is basically diseases, you're studying each disease. As the conditions kept coming in, because I had to start studying general pathology as well, and it kind of became confusing because I'd have to know the inflammatory process of this, inflammatory process of that, when instead I would have just known inflammation in general. And if I understood it to that high level, whereby I would know inflammation in my fingertips, I'd know apoptosis and cell death at my fingertips, then everything would have been easier. So for pathology, the best thing that you can do is understand the basic concepts, because it's from the foundation that you're going to build your understanding of everything else that comes after from pathology. Pharmacology is basically drugs, actions, and side effects. So for pharmacology, it's basically some of the same things that you pick up from biochemistry, because it's also about pattern recognition, and you're also going to have to know about the high yield drugs. So once you know about each drug, you know its adverse drug reactions, its mechanism of action, its indications, its contraindications. You just have that now for each drug, and then you have to know which drugs are high yield by going through the past papers and reading different articles. You might look at what's prevalent in that time or that specific period. So for biochemistry, you can end up making tables of different drugs that you might stick, and then you follow that table with the same title, its mechanism of action, it's this, it's that. And then when you read extensively and go through MCQ questions, you've got MCQs covered for that. Then for section B, it's going to be as easy as just knowing that same structural flow of the specific drugs. For immunology, the language is the key. Once you know what passive immunity is, active immunity, you know about the basic components of immunity, you know T cells, B cells. Once you know that, you understand the complement system, then you'll be able to, everything else is now just going to be applied based off that. You know, the immunoglobulins, all those reactions. And good thing is, immunology is usually like a marriage between microbiology and pathology, because as you go through pathology and go through microbiology, immunology becomes easier. So for that, you supplement that with MCQ questions, because that will also open up your brain to how questions are asked. And when you go through these different MCQs, you find that you learn, because immunology is actually really extensive, but for MBCHB, you kind of like just go surface level as compared to other programs that go through immunology. So immunology, you just go through that, and then other courses will help you get more knowledge of that immunology. Medical ethics. For medical ethics, you just need to know the principles. You know, beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, justice, consent, confidentiality, and just have time for medical ethics. For medical ethics, behavioral science, these are courses that a lot of students tend to underestimate, and when you don't give it its sufficient amount of time for studies, then you will fail. So for those courses, just have respect the course. That's the only advice I can give. So for public health is more than just definitions and calculations. So since public health, you're looking mostly about epidemiology, prevalence of diseases, and then you're going to have to calculate according to that, and there'll be a component of statistics in that code. For public health, you're just going to, the best thing I can say is try to understand as well and think outside the box, because a lot of students fall into the trap of maybe just reading the source material, which is there, not even the source material, just reading the lecture slide, and from there going into an exam and expecting to get a lot of marks from multiple choice. Yeah, but for public, they can shock you. Public health, there's a public health test I wrote that had zero calculations for a topic that was calculation heavy. So what the questions that were asked were basically about why you do this, why are you going to calculate for this, why are you going to do that, and a lot of people failed that paper because a lot of them were memorizing what to calculate. So for public health, it's not a hard course in MBCHB. I repeat, in MBCHB, it's not a hard course. You just have to give it its time as well and understand what you're going. Why are you calculating this? Why do you want to find this? Why the odds ratio? Why the this? Why the that? For clinical skills, for those that take it, these are your first steps into medicine. You're going to have to know your history taking, your general examination, communication with the patient, and some marriage between what you're going to learn from medical ethics. But it's basically what you're going to be doing for it to be easier for you in a clinical setting. This course might not even be examined to that. You basically just have to clear this course if you at all take it. But one advice I'll give you for those who take this course is take it seriously, because depending on how well you're going to do in this course or what information you get from it is going to correlate to how easy clinicals will be for you, because what you're going to learn from clinical skills is going to heavily be advantageous to you during your clinical run in medical school. So now just a few things to keep in mind. Consistency beats intelligence every single time. You can fail a test and still become an amazing doctor. Failure does not equal destiny. Ask questions early and often. Don't suffer alone, because medicine is about teamwork. Protect your mental health. Eat, sleep, hydrate, and rest. Remember your why. You're training to save lives. Don't forget the mission. Preclinicals are tough, but they're not designed to break you. They're designed to shape you. With the right system and mindset and the right support, you will survive and thrive. If you want more real medical school videos, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for all notifications, and hope to see you back.